welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is track days. What I mean by that is we're going to do a step-by-step guide on how to do your first track day. Now this video is tailored towards riders that are on the fence or maybe have committed to the idea of doing their first track day, but you're asking yourself, what gear do I need? What equipment do I need? How do I even find a track day? How do I sign up for a track day and what to expect for a track day? So if that's you, this video is all about those things and more. Additionally, if you are already doing track days, you might still find some value from watching the video because at the end of it, I'm gonna be talking about top 3 things that you should not waste time or money on and the alternatives that you should instead focus on. So that might help you as well. Now, before we jump to the video, I have to share with you that according to YouTube, over 80% of the viewers of this video are likely new to the channel. If you could please leave a like, that would really help. What would also be great is if you left a comment or left questions. And if this video proves to be useful or helpful, or you just enjoy it in general and you like listening to me ramble about track days, please consider subscribing to the channel. That would really help. All right, let's get into track days. First off, what is a track day? All over America, all over the world, there are track day providers or TDPs that are private businesses and private organizations, most of them which are for-profit businesses. These organizations are responsible for booking the racetrack, providing the staff and the vendors to be able to host customers so that you and I can come and ride without the nuisance of speed limits and lights and cars and deers and children and all sorts of things that might be a distraction on the road. The most important thing that I can say is that a track day is not a race day. So repeat after me, a track day is not a race day. That is really important because I think there's maybe this misunderstanding that equate track day riding with races, which it's not. Track days are completely geared towards having fun and also a really big emphasis on learning. Whereas a race day might be the same things, but there's a big emphasis on competition. Try to separate those things in your mind in terms of a track day being a race day. Now that you know what a track day is, let's talk about how do you find a track day in the first place. Luckily, we have Google. All you need to do is type your area, your region, your city, your state, motorcycle track day, and you'll likely find something in your area. What's really cool is there are just so many racetracks all over the United States, all over the world that are likely in a few hours or a couple hours away from where you're at, and they're gonna be able to host motorcycle track days. In my case, when I moved to Texas 2 years ago, I had to really kind of start over in terms of finding out where the racetracks are and who hosts them, etc. So it's really gonna be region dependent. When I moved here, the first thing I typed was Houston Motorcycle Track Days. And we have 2 providers here in Texas, RideSmart and 316. Obviously, your track day provider will be different if you're in California or on the East Coast, in the Midwest, etc. Next thing you do is look up the dates and just, find a date that works for you in your schedule and then go ahead and book it. Now, when you do book the track day, if this is your first track day, make sure you sign up for the novice group, L1, beginner, whatever it's called, sign up for that group because so much of track riding is about safety and decorum because the racetrack is not a public road. So there are rules, there are standards, there's a bit of just the culture of being in the paddock and being around the racetrack. And the novice group, the beginner group, will have the appropriate instructors and they'll have the appropriate guidance so that you can get into track riding and get into the sport in a safe way, not just for yourself, but for everyone else that's sharing the racetrack with you, right? And it's something that I want to stress really strongly is that no matter how fast you are in your local canyons, even if you're local hero on your, mountain routes, you are going to be a beginner as a track day rider. Now, if it turns out you're really naturally gifted at it and you're, the new Marc Marquez, trust me, there's going to be an instructor or a control rider who is faster than you, and they're going to be able to give you the evaluation and bump you up to the appropriate group. But start with the beginner group just so you get to know the standards, get to know the decorum for how to get on and off the track, how to conduct yourself on the track in a safe manner. That is extremely important. So now that you sign up for your first track day as a beginner, you now move to the next phase, which is making sure you have the appropriate safety equipment. Now, most track day groups, track day providers will provide a list of equipment on their website, just telling you what you need. In general, they're pretty consistent around the country, around the world. So the things that you need that are absolutely non-negotiable are a functioning helmet in good condition. So absolutely, I would encourage you not to wear a crashed helmet. In fact, what I've seen is recently more and more track day providers are actually doing inspections, tech inspections and gear inspections, not just for the bike, but also for the gear. Okay, so they're gonna check the manufacturing date on your helmet to make sure that it's not older than 5 years, because that's kind of the typical rule of thumb, is that if a helmet is over 5 years old, likely the safety qualities of the materials is compromised at that point. So check the manufacturing dates in your helmet. It's usually a little logo or a label or a sticker or something that's typically 4 digits that will tell you when it was manufactured, and it should be within 5 years. And if it isn't, I highly encourage you, or you're actually gonna need to, it's not even optional. You're gonna need to go buy a new helmet. So go buy an appropriate helmet. Now, do you need an AGV Pista GPRR $1,700 helmet? No. Do you need a Shoei X14 for $900? Absolutely not. You don't need to spend that much money on a track-worthy helmet. I would just recommend sticking with a really tried and true brand like Shoei, AGV, Arai, etc. You can buy an entry-level helmet and it'll be really, really good, and it'll provide all the protection that you need for your first many track days. Now, the next thing you need is a suit. You don't need a one-piece race suit like the suit I have in the back there. Most of the times, you can also use a two-piece suit. In fact, when I started track day riding, I used a Dainese two-piece suit because I like the versatility of it. I could take the pants off and just wear, say, Kevlar enforced jeans to do some street riding along with a leather jacket. And then when I want to do the track day, I can just zip up the leather pants, and that worked just fine. But at some point in time, you might get really deep into the sport and you're like, you know what, I want to invest in a one-piece suit. And then you can sell the pants or keep the pants and just get your one-piece suit. You don't need to go ham with your first suit, whether it's a one-piece or a two-piece. What I would strongly recommend, again, is stick with a reputable brand like Dainese, like Alpine Stars. My favorite brand of suits for non-airbag systems is Speedy. I really like the fit of it. The great thing about these brands is that they have a wide range of suits at different price points. So do you need to spend $3,000, $4,000 on a full kangaroo custom leather suit with airbag integration? Absolutely not, and don't do it, right? You don't need to. You can spend $800 to $1,000 on a perfectly great quality suit from any of these brands that will suit you very well for your first or many track days, or even first 1 or 2 seasons of track day riding. So don't break the bank just to get a suit for your first track day. All right, the next thing you're gonna need are gloves and boots. For gloves, make sure they're full gauntlet gloves, none of the protection that only goes up to your wrist, because when you go down, the natural instinct is going to be to stick your hands out, you're gonna slam your hand on the ground, you're gonna want full wrist protection just in case. So just do yourself a favor, get a full pair of gauntlets. For me, I even ride gauntlet gloves on the street when I used to ride on the street, because my day-to-day job is typing. I think most modern jobs today, no matter what your field or your profession is, you're gonna need hands that function. So protect your hands. They are how you earn your money. So get yourself some proper protection with gloves. In case you're wondering, my chosen brand of gloves is Racer gloves. I've been wearing them for years now. I've had many pairs. They work really well. If you guys want me to do a review on gloves, please leave a comment below. I'd love to do that. It's really fun for me as well. The next thing you need are boots. Now, same thing with the gloves and the boots, right? You need to have a high quality pair of boots because your feet are really important. Walking is very important. I've torn my Achilles completely where I was in a boot and on crutches for a year. It sucked. So make sure that you wear really high quality boots, get the best boots you can afford, and just take these things really seriously. I personally like the Alpine Stars SuperTech R boots, the new versions that are vented. If you're in a really cold region, obviously you can look at the unvented versions. For me in Texas here, vented is a must, so all my boots are vented. The next thing is a back protector. Do you need a back protector? Absolutely. Absolutely, do not skimp on a back protector. I've met people on track without a back protector and it scares the crap out of me, because you just don't know whether you're on the street, on the track, you just don't know. That's the variability, the danger of it, but you must please get at least a back protector. You just don't know. And also the next thing to consider is an air vest. No track day organization is going to say you have to have an air vest. What do I think on that topic? Get an air vest. At this point in time, it's been over 10 years now since the first air vest system has been available to the public. There are many options for air vests at very different price points. You can get a tether-based system like a Hit Air for around $400. You can go all the way up to a Tech Air 10, which is the latest and greatest from Alpine Stars. You can do integrated air vest systems. There's all sorts of solutions out there, but just please get a back protector at minimum. Get an air vest if you can. Protect yourself. It's very important. Now, the last thing in terms of safety equipment and things that you'll need for the track day are earplugs. I don't know why, but I've met folks that ride without earplugs on the racetrack. I think it's absolutely insane, because your ears and your ability to listen is one of our very treasured senses, right? Can you imagine losing touch or sight. I don't want to lose my hearing. These race bikes, these bikes on track, when they're at full throttle, they're over 100 decibels. Right? They're over 110 decibels. They are extremely loud and they're going to be close to you, and you will start to lose your hearing if you don't protect your hearing. So wear earplugs, please do, okay? Also, the really loud noises can be quite a bit of a distraction, especially if you're not used to it. So just take that extra step, buy a bunch of earplugs. They're incredibly cheap. Just bring earplugs. I don't go out on track without earplugs. That covers your safety gear. Now make sure that everything you have is in pretty good condition. All those things should be in good shape before you get out on track, and preferably do this all before the day of. It's gonna suck if you sign up for the track day, you've already paid for it, you go to registration, then you go to inspection, and your gear is not acceptable and you don't get to do your track day. That would be bad. So just get it done ahead of time. I'll provide a checklist down below for all these sorts of things. Now that we've covered the safety gear, let's talk about other things that you might need before you even get to the racetrack. Now, most racetracks out there are gonna have a giant paddock or a parking lot, essentially, where there might be garages, there might be canopy, there might be cover, but that's not guaranteed. You can check ahead of time. It's very, very important that you have some sort of shade or covering, whether you rent a garage, rent a canopy if that's available, or you bring a pop-up tent. Just make sure that you have some sort of coverage, because you don't know if it's gonna be really, really hot or maybe even raining on you. You don't wanna be sitting out there in the middle of a giant asphalt parking lot exposed to nature while you're trying to rest and recover between sessions. That is just brutal on you, on yourself mentally, on yourself physically. So have some sort of cover. Now you can split up the cost with some friends on a garage, on a canopy, or a pop-up tent. Just make sure you have some sort of shelter for your track day. That's gonna help a lot. Next things you need are seating. So many times I'll go to the racetrack and guys are like, hey, can I borrow a chair or whatever it is. Just, you need a seat, okay? Like just bring a chair. The next thing is hydration. That is more important than anything else. It's just adequate hydration. You will absolutely hurt yourself, whether it's a crash or you just get a heat stroke or whatever it is. It's gonna really suck if you're not hydrating appropriately. Now, you've probably seen how hot it's gotten recently. Hydration is absolutely a must. If you're gonna pay, $200, $300, $400 for a track day, you don't wanna waste sessions because you had to sit out because you were too tired, because you're too dehydrated, right? So make sure you have enough water. That's the most important thing, right? Don't just chug Red Bulls and think that's hydration. That's not. Drink a ton of water. When I was coaching martial arts, I would encourage the athletes to start drinking water 48 hours beforehand to start to hydrate before competition. Same thing with riding. You don't want to wait till the morning of, not even the day before. You want to start hydrating that week, right? To start to prepare your body for all of that heat, prepare your body for all of that exertion as well. I also bring electrolytes, so I just like to have Pedialyte. I will mix half water, half Pedialyte, and just chug along the way. And then the next thing is I really like is bananas, because you lose so much nutrients, it's really easy to cramp up. So just have bananas on hand, eat away at that. And then just some snacks, just some light snacks. You don't want to be too filled up, but at the same time, you need to have some sort of calories to burn, you need to have some carbohydrates to burn, you need to have some sort of fuel to get you through the day. Riding motorcycles is already pretty taxing. Riding motorcycles on track is like times 10 on the street, right? So just make sure you're prepared for that, okay? And then the next thing is, I would encourage you to have a basic set of tools. Don't depend on other people to have tools. You might need to tighten something up here or there, tighten a chain because it's too loose, adjust the rear set, or adjust lever positions, or adjust tire pressures. All these things you need to do. I'm gonna add all this to a checklist below. Feel free to use that. I hope it's helpful. Some of the things that are a little bit optional, if you have power at the track, if you have a way to get power, whether there's electricity there already, or you might have a generator, I would really consider having a helmet fan. I love to have a dry helmet whenever I get on track, especially during the hot seasons. You can just set your helmet on the fan between sessions, it'll cool it down, it'll dry it down, and then when you get out on track, you're gonna have a fresh start, which is really nice. The other things that are optional, but I think you should definitely consider getting, is Plexus, which is it's just a cleaning solution that I use for my visor, because you're gonna be hitting bugs left and right. Just have some sort of way to clean your visor and keep it clean so you can see on track. Those are the things that you need in terms of the safety gear and also the additional equipment that you might need. The last thing here is a vehicle for transportation. Now, if you have a truck, you're probably in luck. It's gonna be really easy for you to transport. You just need a ramp to get your motorcycle on the truck. If you don't have a truck, consider renting a U-Haul trailer. That's what I did for a year when I first started riding, I just had like a little sedan, a really, really old Honda Accord that I hitched a U-Haul trailer to. At some point I got sick and tired of that, so I sold all that stuff, and then I got my first truck. And you can go as crazy as you want, but at the very least, you need some way to get your motorcycle, your gear, your riding equipment to the track in a safe manner. What I would highly recommend is get all of those things sorted out before the track day. Ideally, before the day before the track day, because you don't want to do anything last minute. And the final thing here is your motorcycle. So we've talked about safety gear, we've talked about tools and equipment and things that you might need. Let's talk about the motorcycle itself. Now, please take this part very seriously. Your motorcycle should be in good condition, okay? Do not bring a motorcycle that's leaking fluids. Do not bring a motorcycle with things flapping around. It is just dangerous for yourself and it's dangerous for everyone else. I've literally seen fairings flying off the track, almost hitting people. I've seen all sorts of things fall on track. Just don't do it. Take the time ahead of time to prepare the motorcycle so that you're not doing any sort of last minute maintenance. And the worst thing is paying for a track day and wrenching trackside. Just don't do it. It sucks. I've done it before. It's not recommended. It's definitely gonna make your experience shitty. So every track day organization is gonna have some sort of checklist in terms of things that you need to do. If you have a street bike, you're likely gonna have to tape up the lights, front and rear. You're gonna have to probably tape up the mirrors as well. What I like to do on the street bikes that we have is just remove the mirrors in general and tape the lights up. You can also pull the plugs just to disable the lights if you want to. Simple things, right? And then also, if you do an oil change, it's highly recommended that you safety wire or at least run the bike a little bit beforehand to make sure that everything is tightened down to spec. So check your torque specs on your oil plugs, okay? Please, for the love of God, do that. You do not want to spill oil on the track. You are gonna crash yourself out. You're gonna crash a bunch of people behind you, and you're gonna be the most hated person in the paddock. So do not do that, okay? Next thing is radiator fluids or coolants. Make sure that whatever coolant you use is acceptable by the track day organization. The last thing here are tires and brake pads. Make sure that your tires are in good condition. Do you need race slicks? Absolutely not. No. Don't even do it. Not for your first track day. But do you need functioning tires that are in good condition? Absolutely, because the environment of a racetrack is gonna make those tires heat up more than you can possibly imagine compared to what street riding can do. So your tires need to be in good shape. To me, tires are essentially insurance. If you have tires that are in poor condition, that's likely going to be the cause of your crash. Investing in a good set of tires is essentially insurance for that day. So get a good set of tires on the bike. You don't need to have race slicks. You don't need to have the latest and greatest there. Just have a good set of tires. And kind of the final things is make sure your chain is in good condition. It's not too much slack. The kind of rule of thumb is if you're seated on the bike, there's about 1 inch of movement. And you should be good to go. So tighten all that all down. And then the brake pads, of course. Okay, so brake pads obviously should not be completely used up. Just make sure your brake pads are in good shape. Now, the very last thing bike-wise is make sure you bring your keys. Okay, so what I do is I load up the night before, and if I have a street bike with keys, put the keys into the glove compartment or somewhere I can secure it in the truck so that when I arrive at the racetrack, I have a means to start the bike, okay? So I have seen it plenty of times where people show up at a track day and they forgot their keys and their day's ruined. So don't do that to yourself. What I highly encourage is that set your alarm and give yourself some time to travel, right, to the racetrack, and also give yourself about 2 hours for the whole setup process. So arriving at the racetrack, finding a spot for you to park in, right, to set up in the paddock, unloading the bikes, unloading all the equipment, setting all those things up, right? It's gonna take a little bit of time. Then you're gonna meander about and you're gonna need to check in. You're gonna have a riders meeting where everyone gathers and learns about the rules, the flags, etc. And then you're also gonna probably get assigned to an instructor or a coach if it's your very first track day to help you go around the track. You need to budget time for all those sorts of things to happen, okay? You don't wanna be in a rush. Just don't do it to yourself. If you need to sleep 4 hours earlier than normal, do that. Don't tax yourself and put yourself in a bind or in a rush to do anything, because rushing yourself is how bad things start to accumulate, and it's definitely gonna affect your ability to enjoy the day, okay? So give yourself time. So you've got all the things ready. Let's talk about what to expect for your first track day. So your first track day is going to be thrilling. It's gonna be a little bit nerve-wracking because the environment of a racetrack, the paddock itself, is completely alien to anything else in our normal day-to-day life, right? There is no other place in your life where you're encouraged to go as fast as you can, where there's the noise of race vehicles. So you're going to see so many things all around you that are just going to be a bit distracting, right? So expect to have a lot of really cool sights to see, expect to see a lot of really cool vehicles, a lot of cool motorcycles, right? You're gonna see so many cool things that you've not seen before on the street. I'm just excited for you in general. So that's a big thing to expect for. You show up at the racetrack, you're gonna find a spot in the paddock, you're gonna unload. The things that you need to make sure you're ready to do are make sure, one, that your tire pressures are set to the appropriate pressures, recommended pressures for the racetrack. Every single tire is going to be a little bit different, right? From Michelin to Continentals to Pirellis to Dunlop, whatever it is, there's going to be a different range of tire pressures that are recommended for it. It might be a little difficult to find the tire pressures if they're street tires, but trust me, on the forums, someone will likely have done it already. So I would just search the forum for your bike or manufacturer or tire to find what people are running in terms of tire pressures for the racetrack. Set your tire pressures for the track. They are different than the street. Next thing, make sure you have fuel. You might want to get yourself like a 3 or maybe a 5-gallon jug. I prefer the 3-gallon jugs. I have many gas jugs. I've learned that the 5-gallon jugs are pretty unwieldy. I prefer having 2 3-gallon jugs over 1 5-gallon jug just because it's a lot easier to use. That's really the minimum in terms of just preparation for the bike. Obviously, again, taping the lights, removing the mirrors or taping the mirrors, that's up to you guys. And then you're gonna have to take your bike to tech inspection. Now, I've seen that a lot of track day organizers these days are also teching the helmet. So you're gonna have to bring your helmet along, put your helmet on, ride to tech inspection, get in line, and they're gonna check your bike to make sure that everything's nice and tight, make sure that everything is safe for you to be on track, okay? All right, once you get your tech inspection done, you're gonna get a little sticker likely to mark that both your bike and your helmet is track worthy, okay? Now that you've done that, ideally before everything else, you are likely gonna be going to a riders meeting. Every single track day organizer, even race weekends, has a riders meeting. It is absolutely mandatory. Do not be so arrogant as to skip it. You might find out that the track is going a different direction for that day, and you're gonna find that out at the riders meeting. You might find out that the flags might mean a little bit different between racetrack to racetrack. So even if you've done a track day or two before, or many track days, do not skip the riders meeting because you might find out information that's very critical for your safety as well as everyone else's safety. So do not skip the riders meeting. And also, the riders meeting is kind of just a great way to rub elbows and meet some other people. A lot of track day organizers will bring coffee or some snacks or breakfast or whatever it is. So go enjoy yourself, meet folks, say hi, and then just listen in and make sure that you know what's going on. Now, this video is all about first day track riders. So likely you're gonna have some sort of first timers orientation with a track coach or instructor, and likely they're gonna get you into groups of 3, maybe 5, or maybe a little more, and you're gonna do what's called a round robin, where you're gonna get in line and you will follow the instructor for the first session, maybe 1 lap, and take turns, and everyone's gonna take turns leading and following, just to make sure that you understand what the lines are for the racetrack and get yourself kind of exposed to the racetrack environment, because it's gonna feel so different. I can't even express how cool it is the first time you pull onto a racetrack, and if all you've ever done is street riding, you're gonna be like, oh, like, wow, this is such a cool environment. It's gonna be a very, very different environment. So definitely pay attention to that. You might be going slower than you thought you would be going, but trust me, it's just the first session of the day. You're not gonna be a speed racer. You're not gonna set a new track record on your first day, your first session, your first lap. Don't even think about any of that stuff. Just go out there with your group and just have fun and pay attention to the lines, okay? That's gonna be really, really important, because the better you understand the lines, the more quickly you'll be able to adapt, and also the more safely you'll be able to ride on track. That's really, in a nutshell, what's gonna happen. After your first session, you might be set free to do, just go out there on your own, right? What I would encourage is that, if you're feeling uncomfortable, go find an instructor. You literally paid for their time by paying for the track day fee. I can tell you that my first 6 track days, I literally went to an instructor almost every single session and be like, hey, can I follow you? Hey, can you follow me? Can you teach me something, right? Because there's always something to learn and there's always something to work on. And the more instruction you get, the more value you're gonna get out of that money that you spent, right? It's not cheap to be there, so may as well get the most value out of all that money that you spent, okay? I highly encourage that you guys use instructors where possible. You're gonna learn a ton. You're gonna help progress yourself a lot faster that way, okay? Stay humble and stay hungry to learn. So after your first session, you pretty much will be able to do your track day as you will. There likely will be a lunch. Bring your lunch if you can. Sometimes track days don't have food vendors. Actually, most track days in Texas I've been to don't have food vendors that are easily accessible. So pack a sandwich, pack a snack, pack something, because you will need some nutrients to sustain yourself, right? You can also check if the racetrack has a cafeteria. So like Buntonville in California has a cafeteria. Jerez has a fancy restaurant that overlooks the racetrack, so you can eat lunch while you watch people fly by. Some of the racetracks don't have any of those amenities. So just be prepared, make sure you have enough nutrients and nourishment to last the day, okay? Let's say you got through all of that and you're working towards the end of the day. What I would say is really just soak up the environment and meet people and ride with people and just enjoy yourself, guys. Just enjoy yourself. It's such a unique and special sport to be a part of. It's such a unique and special community to be a part of. So just enjoy yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and give yourself time to process what's happening, right? So if you need to sit out a session to really kind of recover and center yourself so you can go back out on track, do that. Don't worry about it, right? Just do that, right? And then at the end of the day, you're gonna pack everything up, load everything up again, make sure everything is tied down and safe and secured, and then head home and just enjoy that drive home and kind of reflect on what you just did, because you just did an awesome thing. As I promised at the start of the video, there are 3 things that I think that novice, beginner, intermediate track day riders even should avoid obsessing about. I'll also propose some alternatives that you should focus on. The first of which is body position. Now, I know, sounds crazy, right? Like, but everyone talks about body position. Well, yeah, I know. Everyone wants to look good in a photo, right? Who wants to look like they're just sitting square, sitting center, or, crossed up on a photo? I want to look good on photos. I don't blame you at all. But the truth is that if you're just starting out as a track day rider, or even if you're an intermediate, obsessing about body position can be really detrimental. The reason why you should not obsess about body position as a novice or beginner track day rider is because body position is a result of carrying more speed. It does not cause you to carry more speed. As you pick up pace, you will naturally start to extend yourself off the bike. You'll naturally start to move in a way that is more conducive to allow you to carry more corner speed. Now, obviously, once you hit a certain pace and you have really poor body position, that will definitely be a limitation. But the reason why so many track day organizations focus on body position is because that is one of the most obvious things to point out when you first start out. It's like, oh, well, you want to turn this way, you want to look this way, you want to position this way. That's the things that are very tangible and very easy for an instructor to pick out. But the things that you should instead focus on, the alternative, is eyes, throttle, and brakes in that order. So where you look is the most important thing as an alternative to body position. How you use your throttle control is the next most important thing. And then thirdly, it's gonna be your brakes, right? Because brakes demand a lot of speed, etc., and you're likely not carrying insane speeds when you first start out. Where you look is so critically important, and that applies to riders at every single level of the spectrum, whether it's your first track day, or you're in the Moto America Championships running for national championships, or you're at the world level. Eyes are so critically important. I actually have a video with Chris Ulrich, who is the vice president of Team Hammer, which is one of the most successful national level competition teams. And I asked him, what do you work with your racers on? They're all so good already. He says eyes, where they look, right? So it doesn't even matter what pace you are, where you look is so critically important, okay? So just make sure that you focus on looking down the track, looking through the corner, right? And don't target fixate. That's more important than body position. The next thing is throttle control, right? So every time you have a straight, try to get the sensation of going full gas to the stopper. I can't express how important that is, because a lot of people think that they're doing full gas, but they're actually not. They're actually stopping themselves. They're used to opening the throttle to a certain degree on the street, but what you need to do is feel the sensation of literally hitting the physical stopper on the throttle. That's when you full gas. Whenever there's a straight, get that sensation, feel that, right? And you need to make that more comfortable, make that a normal part of your riding so you can use the full power band of your bike. Then the last thing here is brake control. So brake control, there's trail braking, there's all sorts of things that go into that. And it's important, but you don't really need to focus too much as a beginner. As you go faster, you're gonna need to use more brakes. So focus on the eyes and focus on the throttle control over the body position, all right? That's gonna help you a lot more. The second thing to not focus or obsess about is lap times. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to beginner track day riders or even intermediate track day riders that talk about lap times all the time. It's just like, the thing to measure yourself by. The truth is that if you're a beginner and you make one big improvement or one adjustment, like looking further down the track or knowing where to look down the track, you can literally chop seconds off your lap time. And the point of the lap time is a objective measure of incremental improvement. But as a beginner, you're not making incremental improvements. You're making leaps and bounds of improvements every single time you get on track. After your first day, you've only done probably, I don't know, 40, 50 laps, but you do it again, you do your 100th lap, you do your 200th lap. I guarantee you just seat time alone is gonna cut away and chip away at those lap times. Don't invest in a lap timer. They're really expensive. Don't look and stare at your lap timer on your dash. If you have one, just tape over it. That's gonna be a huge distraction for you. The alternative to obsessing about lap times is obsess about lines. Really try your best to understand the shape of corners, whether it's early apex, it's a double apex, it's a late apex, it's a chicane, whether it's on camber, off camber. Understand the track, understand the feel of the track, understand the lines of the track. That's gonna take away so much more of the time than just obsessing about the time itself. Focus on the lines of the racetrack. That will help you so much more. Quick story, I rode with an expert level racer when I first moved to Texas and I first started riding here, and I was already an advanced track day rider, but I wanted to push myself to get to like a competitive club racing pace. And he rode with me and he told me that the pace that I was at would never improve unless I improved my lines. What that meant is that I had maxed out pretty much the speed that you could carry for a really shitty line. And why that's so important, and this is something I stress with everyone that I ride with that is starting out, is that the right line is not only the fastest line, but it's also the safest line around the racetrack. You can have two people with the exact same lap times, but one person could be riding on the ragged edge and the other person could be riding well within their comfort. I would rather be the person that's riding with a huge safety margin that's hitting the same times than the person riding at the ragged edge that's almost about to crash all the time. Not only is it unsafe for you, it's also unsafe for everyone else around you. Take the time to learn the lines. That is so important. And the third and final thing that you should not waste money and energy in are slicks. When you first start out as a track day rider, and this extends to intermediate track day riders as well, do not spend your money on race slicks. They're extremely expensive. They're very specific application. You can't use them on the street. I know some people do, just don't do it. They also just bring in a whole slew of other things that you have to worry about. So if you have slicks, you've got to have a tire warmer. If you got tire warmers, you got to have power. You got to bring a generator. You got to worry about this and that. Just don't burden yourself with all these things, because racing slicks require a certain temperature range to perform in. And if you don't have the pace to maintain that temperature range, you're actually gonna get less performance out of a race slick and all the headache that comes with it than getting a really, sport-oriented street tire. It certainly looks cool when you put your bikes up on a stand and you've got the tire warmers on and the generators humming in the background, you look really racery. Just don't do that. When you first start out, even if you're in the intermediate group, it's just gonna be a huge distraction. The alternative to focus on instead is just getting a really good set of track-oriented tires. So nowadays, Pirelli, Metzler, Dunlop, nowadays a lot of these manufacturers have alternatives called TD tires or Trackday tires. They're gonna have a lot of the shared technology that a full race slick has, but at a much easier price point, and also they're not going to require tire warmers to run. So those tires I've found have been really, really good as an alternative to, say, just pure street tires versus the slicks. It's a happy medium where you can put them on the bike, you can do a couple of track days on them, you can ride on the street, in canyons, whatever it is, and just enjoy yourself. And you won't have the headache and the hassle of bringing the warmers, worrying about power, checking, heat cycles, and also it's just too much. It's just too much when you first start out. And instead of being cool and fun, it becomes a distraction and a point of exhaustion. So just don't burden yourself with that. All right, so those are the three things that I would say not to obsess about, not to worry about, not to waste money on, and the alternatives that you should focus on. I would really love to hear it if maybe you were on the fence of doing a track day and now that you've watched the video, you're gonna commit to doing it, or maybe you just went and did it. Let me know in the comments below. It would be so cool to hear that you watched this video and then you went out and signed up for a track day and you did your first track day and you had a great time. That would just make me really happy if you told me that. And also, if you guys have done a lot of track days and I might have missed something, please leave a comment below as well. The really fun part is that this is a really awesome community that's worldwide, not just here in the States or just in your region. It's literally a worldwide passion and hobby, and you can just learn so much from so many people out there. So that's it for today. If you guys haven't left a like, please do hit that subscribe button. That would really help the channel. What I'm trying to do here is to build a community around track riding so we can help share this passion and this love and this joy of riding on a racetrack for more and more riders out there. That's it for now. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.